Hi, my name is Adam Whitmer. I'm the founder and host here at ComplianceCohort.com. This compliance clip is going to talk about what you need to do to get ready for the July 2025 Regulation CC changes. Now, this is a topic that I just finished recording in our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update. In fact, part 2 of our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update spends a half an hour talking about all the ins and outs of what needs to happen to get ready for those Reg CC changes. Now, I figured in this compliance clip that's supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes, I would talk on a high level on what you need to do to get ready for those changes. So in order to understand what we have to do, let's back all the way up and understand what we're talking about. So all the way back on June 24th of 2019, the joint regulators issued a 63-page final rule that changed some parts of Regulation CC relating to the amounts of check holds and funds availability. So part of this rule was mandated by the Dodd-Frank Act, and other parts were mandated by the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. So this was a rule that was a long time coming. Now, these initial rules became effective on July 1st of 2020, and the rules require changes to happen every 5 years. Now, what we're talking here specifically is the dollar amounts that financial institutions have to make available to consumers when a deposit includes a check that the financial institution is wanting to place a hold on. So in other words, it's the amount of funds that must be made available to consumers at the time of deposit. For years, these threshold amounts were pretty low. Reg CC had started with $100 for case-by-case holds and $5,000 for special exception holds. So if you had a $10,000 check and a bank put a 2-day case-by-case hold on it, you could get $100 on the next day, and then on the second business day, you would get your full amount available to you. And say for a large deposited item, the first $5,000 had to be made available to you before the remaining amount of the deposit. Now, over time, inflation started to erode at these amounts, making these amounts less and less valuable to the consumer. In fact, $100 became less and less of a customer's check. So it was detrimental to consumers. So what the Dodd-Frank Act and GRPA did is they basically said, look, we need to adjust these availability amounts based on inflation so inflation doesn't erode at how much is available to consumers. And so that's what this rule essentially did. And we saw an inflation adjustment, maybe a decade ago when it went from 100 to 200. And then we saw on July 1st of 2020, we saw that go to for 200 to 225 based on inflation. Now, what the rules also said is going forward, we need to keep up with inflation. Instead of doing it every year, which would be pretty complicated for financial institutions, they're doing inflation adjustments every 5 years. So fast forward on May 13th of 2024, the Federal Reserve Board and the CFPB, who have joint rulemaking authority on Reg CC, issued a final rule amending Regulation CC to adjust for inflation dollar amounts relating to the availability of funds. And this adjustment comes from an increase in the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clinical workers between the 5-year period of July of 2018 and July of 2023. And what we saw during that 5-year period was essentially a 22% increase due to inflation. So therefore, what we have to do for our funds availability is we're essentially increasing those amounts by a 22% increase, rounded to the nearest $25. That's how this works. So these new thresholds are going to be effective on July 1st of 2025. So they issued this nearly a year before, so there's still some time to implement this. Most financial institutions are going to wait till May or June to implement this. A lot of them may wait till July 1st. But this is something that there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. So it's important to start thinking about this now and what you need to do to be ready by the July 1st timeframe. Now, Again, in our quarterly compliance update, we talked for half an hour, but here to try to summarize things, let me just break it down to two main things that you're going to have to do in your financial institution to be ready for the 2025 Regulation CC changes. It really comes down to two main things. First of all, is you need to update your organization to comply with the new availability amounts. So no longer do we have $100 for case-by-case holds. No longer is it $225. It's actually increasing up to $275. So we have to update the applicable amounts for availability based on inflation, both for case-by-case holds, and special exception holds, and another hold if you do it, and your policies and procedures. Now, the second thing we need to do after we update everything based on those inflation adjustments is we need to also notify our customers. Due to Reg CC, we have to notify customers of any change. So those are really the main things we have to do. Now, I will tell you there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. And in our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update, I actually came up with a 10-step implementation plan that included things like updating your policies and procedures, talking to your board, and so on and so forth. So this is a high-level overview of that. We just don't have time to go over more in this compliance clip that's supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm sure I'm already over that at this point. But if you did want to take a deeper dive into these changes, our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update, our part 2 is an entire half an hour that's focused on what you need to do for these changes. And specifically, we designed this program in our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update to be focused on the managers or compliance professionals who are responsible for making the change in your organization. So it's not designed for tellers or new account staff or anybody actually placing the hold or even really reviewing the hold. It's for those who are responsible for managing the program and rolling out the change and training staff. We actually have a training manual you can use to train your staff. And so our fall 2024 quarterly compliance update is designed specifically for those who are responsible for implementing this change in your organization. So that's a great resource you can access. If you don't need it, that's not a big deal. The two main things you have to deal with or updating your applicable availability amounts, and then providing notification to your customers. So that's really it for this compliance clip. Now, if you're new to the compliance cohort, consider signing up for our basic membership. It's absolutely free, but we have a bunch of compliance clips just like this that are free training videos. They're supposed to run 3 to 5 minutes. I seem to always go over, but we have hundreds of those available in our basic membership. We've also got hundreds of articles. We do a weekly newsletter on Friday. We do giveaways each month. So it's a free membership for compliance professionals and those wanting to learn more about regulatory compliance. If you want to take a deeper dive into things like Regulation CC, take a look at our store, compliancecohort.com/store. In the first quarter of 2025, we'll have a Reg CC training for tellers program that's designed to train your tellers. We have other programs too that are on all topics, including compliance training for the board of directors. So you can take a look at that at compliancecohort.com/store. Again, that's it. That's all I have for this compliance clip. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you for doing that. You're the reason I do what I do. And until next time, I hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot.